When I met my fiancé's mother for the first time, she refused to even take the flowers I brought her. She wouldn't speak to me. She wouldn't even look at me. And at that time, I had no idea why. It wasn't until months later that I discovered the real reason. If you haven't watched my part 1 yet, I recommend starting there first, because this dinner was the moment everything began to fall apart. Shortly after we got engaged, my boyfriend and I planned to visit his parents to talk about the wedding. But the visit kept getting postponed by his mother. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Maybe they were just busy. Then one day, my boyfriend suddenly said, "Let's just go today." So he picked me up and we drove 4 hours to his parents' house. On the way there, I stopped briefly to buy flowers and desserts for his mother. I wanted to make a good impression. Eventually, we arrived at the house. The moment we walked in, something felt wrong. The atmosphere was cold. I handed his mother the flowers I had brought. She didn't take them. Not knowing what to do, I awkwardly placed them on a table near the entrance. We sat down for dinner. She hadn't cooked. It was clearly takeout, just transferred onto plates. During the entire dinner, she spoke only with my boyfriend and his father, as if I wasn't even there. His father looked uncomfortable, almost apologetic, but his mother remained completely cold. I think she and I exchanged maybe 1 or 2 words the entire evening. I had never felt so unwelcomed in my life. At one point, I excused myself from the table and went to the bathroom. I quietly cried for a moment. Then I came back out, pretending nothing had happened. But my throat was tight from holding back tears, and I couldn't swallow a single bite of food. When we left the house, his mother said goodbye, only to him. His father, on the other hand, quietly handed me some money and told me to grab something to eat later because I hadn't eaten anything. I remember feeling completely confused. On the drive back to the city, I asked my boyfriend what had happened, but he never really explained anything. He just kept saying he was sorry. And after that night, something between us began to change. Something between us broke. Our relationship was never the same. We started arguing more and more. Looking back now, I still don't know exactly what happened. Maybe I lost patience with his vague attitude. Maybe he was overwhelmed by pressure. Or maybe his mother had already convinced him that I wasn't good enough for him. Then several months later, I heard something shocking from one of his friends. His mother wasn't his biological mother. She was his stepmother. Apparently, when she married his father, the family was already struggling financially. She had raised him and her own daughter during very difficult years. Because my boyfriend had spent many years in school and a lot of tuition money becoming a surgeon, his family, or his stepmom to be more exact, expected him to support them financially. That part actually wasn't the problem though. He was already doing that. But they also expected something else. A dowry, not a small one. A dowry large enough to buy a brand new house, a German car, and private education for his younger stepsister who was only 14 at the time. All of it, upfront. Altogether, it would have cost more than $1 million. I felt dizzy. At the time, I had grown up mostly in the United States, so I didn't fully understand that in Korea, families of high-earning professions sometimes expected large dowries. My family was actually upper middle class, but even so, my parents would never agree to spend that kind of money just to buy a doctor husband for their daughter. And his mother knew that. She knew I would never bring that kind of money into their family. After learning this, I tried to break up with him, but I still loved him, and he kept promising that he would persuade his mother and make things right. So for nearly 2 years, our relationship became a cycle. Breaking up, getting back together, breaking up again. At one point, I even quit my broadcasting job in Korea to move back to the United States so that we could finally end the relationship for good. This whole experience was deeply traumatic for me. My weight dropped to 88 pounds. It was one of the most painful periods of my life. Eventually, after years of going back and forth, I realized something. I could no longer trust his promises that things would somehow work out. And even if things would somehow sort out, I didn't want to be part of his family anymore. So I ended it. Just like that, what felt like my first real love was over. But what hurt me the most wasn't the breakup itself. It was the story my mind created afterwards. My ego couldn't accept the fact that I had been rejected, especially for something that wasn't even my fault. How could it possibly be my fault that I didn't have $1 million at 26 years old? So my mind kept repeating the same explanation, over and over. The reason I lost the love of my life was money. The problem was simple. I did not have enough money. That was it. That thought slowly sank into my subconscious, and once that belief settled there, reality began to reflect it. After 4 years later, I got engaged again, but somehow the exact same situation played out all over again in front of my eyes. And around the same time, my financial situation soured as well. At the time, I didn't understand what was happening. Maybe I was just unlucky? But years later, I realized something. A belief had been quietly stored in my subconscious. A belief that said, if I don't have money, I'll be rejected. And even worse, I do not have enough money. Reality began to reflect those beliefs with almost terrifying accuracy. After my first broken engagement, I tried desperately to make more money. I hustled, I worked hard, and I saved painfully, being extremely frugal. I moved back to home to save rent. I swore myself that I would never be rejected for not having enough money again. But somehow, situations outside of my control kept taking money away from me. Things would suddenly break, investment would lose value, unexpected huge medical bills. Until eventually, my savings were completely gone, and I came dangerously close to bankruptcy. After the breakup, I had promised myself something else as well, that I would only date men who would never reject me, men who seemed safe, men who, I believed, would never put me in that situation again. But somehow, my worst nightmare still unfolded right in front of me. And that's when I began to question something. Was this really just bad luck, or was there something deeper shaping my reality? I'll tell you what I discovered and how I got myself out of the cycle and changed my life around in part 3.